which was previously imaginable. So a small flight and a small initiative by a few people with curiosity have taken a shape of a multi-billion-dollar industry right now, which has certainly affected all of our lives, and they have shaped the modern lifestyle which we are enjoying right now. So without further ado, I would, let's take a fly through, and I would like to request Mr. Masood Malik to just explain us, like, what is the landscape of the current aerospace industry right now, what it constitutes, and what are the basic pillars we have for this industry.
Thank you. Thank you for the audience to come in the afternoon. Our journey started in '65 war, just after the war. One of our commanders, the famous Air Marshal Noor Khan, he goes to America. He didn't ask for aircraft. He said, I want state-of-the-art College of Aeronautical Engineering to be set up in Pakistan. And he came back with an American team, and that's how the first seeds were laid of PF College of Aeronautical Engineering. All three of us are the graduates. And so that's how our journey started in terms of indigenization, self-reliance of aerospace industry in Pakistan. There were hiccups up and down. The first project was 𝑫𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒄. People don't know about it. Perhaps 𝑫𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒄 came into being even before ISRO, the Indians, came. We were the first third world country in the world who launched their first rocket in space, Rebel 1 and 2. And the Indians were shocked. And that's how we jump-started the aerospace industry from 𝑫𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒄. Then came PEC, Precision Engineering Complex, Karachi, where we built our own missile system, which gave us an impetus to have other programs. PSC Kamra, again, people sitting in the back, they were not even born. PSC Kamra was set up with a formal contract between Swedish company, Vision, and Pakistan. So we were supposed to start off transfer of technology, design center, certification, everything at Kamra. That's how the wind tunnel at Chattar came in to give us an impetus in designing aerofoils of any nature. And Mushaks came in, we put them in Rasalpur hangars to start a local manufacturing of basic aircraft. So we jump-started the aerospace industry. I'll not go into details, perhaps the question and answer will clarify. So right now, we have a $5 billion aerospace industry in the public sector. Most of us, especially my generation, we've built up that. And last 5-6 years, we are trying to extract maximum output from this white elephant, call it, sorry to say, into private sector growth. And that's where we come in, Pakistan Aerospace Council. I'll stop here and then we'll continue.
Thank you very much, Masood Sahab. If I say there's between, to further explain the aerospace industry, so would you like to explain, like, what is the relation between a defense organization and aerospace industry? Defense organization has been a major customer and user of aerospace products, So would you like to share, like, what sort of a product lines are specifically to the defense sector? What are the product lines they are consuming and what are their visions?
Sir, as Mansoor Sahab said, the aviation industry we have so far in the country is all about the public sector. And in the last 5 years, we are trying to make sure that people come in, people contribute, people leverage the business activity going thereon. And in that, whatever entities Sir mentioned, they have all been set up as a concept of kind of co-production or joint production. So the gap identified over the past 3-4 decades is the design. Gradually, the defense sector whether the three armed forces or POFBA or other places, all public sectors. The need to go into design, because if you don't go into design, you don't come up with a product. You don't come up with a product, there is no business. Because making a thing which you have taken from somebody, the design authority remains there. The modification, if any, cannot be undertaken unless you have the design authority. This is for the military, it becomes more, I would say, sensitive or relevant, because flight safety, human safety comes in. But even for the commercial products, you can pick up an idea, you can pick up the concept, but unless you have gone through the design cycle or you have a handle on the relevant elements of the design cycle, you can't do anything. So the gap for all these setups has been identified, it is being promoted, it is being talked about, but without the involvement of the public sector, the private sector, the public sector can't do much on its own. One, because of the revenues. Two, because of the HR. Three, it doesn't build a business case. Because if we are the customers, we develop a product for ourselves, and we can't be competitive in the international market to sell it to the other air forces. There is no fun. And public sector inherently has a lot of cost which is absorbed in its architecture through the Government of Pakistan funding. So that's not visible, and that's not, I would say, that doesn't hurt us. But the private sector understands the pinch of every penny being spent on these kind of efforts. So for the design domain, you have to invest time, you have to invest HR, you have to be patient. And you never know whether that product gives those dividends or not. So the effort which the public sector is doing, it may not translate into the products of the aerospace industry. But we all have to understand that we have to just contribute in small bits and pieces. It might be a sub-module of a subsystem. Still, if you make a product and it contributes or it qualifies, it's an achievement. We always think, or all of us, including this side and that side, we all think, nahi, ke end item should have my tag. Yes, you will get there someday, but in this sector, you have to just come in thinking that it's a small bit to start with, and there you go. And the last thing I would like to say in this is that comparing with any of the business sectors, probably it is the most expensive sector to have a product which is qualified and marketable.
Thank you, Mansur. I will take this further discussion to Tawseef Saab. Traditionally, this industry has been a game of big boys. You know, if you look at the North American market, since they contribute almost the 50% of the aerospace industry, we see giants like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and there have been so many mergers and acquisitions in the past. So having said that, they have utmost resources at their disposal and experience behind them. So is the landscape changing in future, and how would the mid-sized companies and would have opportunities in emerging technologies and be part of this industry? They would be competing against the resources of Lockheed Martin or BAE Systems and European Aerospace Systems. So do you see any change within this sector for startups, for mid-sized organizations to pave way into the system?
Sir, thank you very much. First of all, thank you to the audience for sparing time today and coming for this very critical session. And with due apology, I'll just make two corrections. One is, in Pakistan and in 𝒂𝒏𝒆𝒍 especially, we're trying not to celebrate Wright brothers as giving them we look at 𝒂𝒏𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 as the first pioneer aerospace guy. And secondly, it's not a few billions industry, it is a trillion plus. The direct impact of the economy is in trillions. And if you encompass the strategic nature of the industry, it impacts everything downstream from aerospace. Because aerospace determines the pinnacle of technology because of the complexities involved, because of the technical challenges involved, and as well as the quality and safety constraints that are imposed in this industry. So if I translate your question, try to understand, it pertains to, if this is so much growth worldwide, such big players, big OEMs, what is the, why are we sitting here? Is there any opportunity left for us? So that's what we have been deliberating at NASTAP. So why you see the spread of 11 building here and a national project, the incubation center focused on aerospace technology? Because the answer is yes, fortunately. And the fact lies in the dynamics of the industry that it's really a global industry. It's not, the OEMs are the point where systems actually get to the end users, they get delivered, but the industry truly is global. So starting from small washers, the expense of the industry is very, very wide, which covers IT services, which covers transportation services, materials sciences, fabrics. So all of these actually go into, and some of the highest standard products come out of this industry, then for which you have derivative spin-offs. So NASA, for instance, publishes a spin-off journal every year. And if you look at that, so they try to quantify the impact these technologies are having in the spin-offs. So this is really a strategic thing, and OEMs are not dominating it. The value chain has all over the spectrum various kind of opportunities available to us. And so once we were pitching the program for NASTAP, and COVID hit us somewhere midstream, 2019, by late 2019, early 2020, the COVID had hit, and they were saying you are trying to revive the aerospace industry in Pakistan. It's actually going to shambles worldwide. So we went to collected the data, and what appeared was that there have been major impacts worldwide, but the growth of this industry has been consistent. So it has been one of the most resilient industries. So we said, don't worry, it'll come back. Secondly, opportunity, when the market goes down, for instance, the finance market, for people who are already invested in it, it's the worst time because they lose money big time. They have big plans, Airbus, but for new players, it's an ideal time to make entry into the market because people who have gone out of business, their technologies are up there, people have lost jobs, they're available for new entrepreneurs to come in and bring new models. So with that, and also basically looking at what has been happening in the Pakistan sector, while as Sir Mansoor was pointing out that we went down this journey, and where we are today, we could have actually done much better. So it's actually, if you match the potential of Pakistan to what we are doing, and why all the three panelists here are graduates of College of Aeronautical Engineering, all our future aerospace people are there, because the national imperative for Pakistan has been national security, number one. So we have to deliver missiles and stuff that protects us. And for some reason, the economic security actually went in the back seat. So all the industries actually have, if you go worldwide, aerospace industry especially has been prompted by wars and by the defense, and gradually it migrates to the lower end.
That would be my next question to Mansoor Saab.
Okay.
Is this industry actually curiosity driven, technology driven, or actually it's a conflict driven? If we look at the history, between a Cold War era between US and Soviet Union, and there was a race between both of them to reach this space and go beyond, So what is the basic driving force? Is it the threat, conflict which drives this industry and create opportunities, or is the research?
The marketing is, let me give you an answer, just one sentence of your previous question. AWC was a $5 million company, launched in 1990. In 2000, we did $100 million exports only to one country, Turkey, because we were fighting the war against the Kurds. We are fighting the war of Sri Lankan Air Force against the Tamils. We exported them $20 million. So it's opportunity. Aerospace industry is opportunity cost. How do you do your marketing? The public sector, unfortunately, I was part of the public sector, but in AWC we kicked out all the rules and regulations. We said, fine, let there be a hangman's tree. So we went out of the box. So a public sector, aerospace industry has its constraints. I will go to the extent, because I was the founding director, policy planning and development of 𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒄, Defense Export Promotion. And we wanted to have out-of-box solutions, and we wanted to place aerospace industry, defense exports as part of the Ministry of Commerce rather than the DP division. Because if a DP division is not part of the solution, then it's part of the problem. So let me that is why our entire emphasis in Pakistan Aerospace Council is work with the facilitators. We are sending 10 of our industrial members next week to Glasgow. I was there for my book launching. So B2B, we are interested in B2B negotiations. No B2C, no B2G, and talking about, there are more than 5 volumes of files between Pak-Turkish collaboration. And we just forgot about that and went straight away and did $100 million exports from AWC to Turkey. So what I'm saying is, aerospace industry has to have out-of-box. Opportunities come your way. Exports. I'm sorry to say, but look at Israel. When we were at depot and we were looking at the data of aerospace exports, my God, it was a vertical growth. Purely based on HR. My friends talk about HR. The biggest asset we have today is HR. We have aeronautical engineers from CAE everywhere in the world. I've been to European Space Agency, found a CAE graduate. I've been to NASA. My last presentation was NASA was System of Systems UAV. You talk about designing. We've gone beyond designing in aerospace, industry. It's system of systems. It's no more a system engineering that we studied when we were doing undergrad, postgrad in engineering. System of systems means a UAV. That was my presentation and my team. You want to have a small UAV system. You design an autopilot depending upon the structure and the range of that. So you have the same design center stretches the airframe, and you have a software up front, and it becomes a technical, So what I'm saying is, aerospace industry is the most flexible and most dynamic out of the engineering, provided you have the right HR. And we were fortunate. 60 years back we have. So we have the most limiting factor in aerospace industry is the HR. That we have. But they are misplaced. They are all stuck up in the public sector. I was the founding member of the CAE Alumni Association also, and I was trying to pull the CAE graduates into the private sector. So to answer your question, private sector growth, how do we take $5 billion to $50 billion in the next 5 years or 10 years, This is can only happen if the private sector growth is there, Otherwise, we can have infrastructure, we can have test facilities in the public sector, but the marketing, the penetration of the new markets in aerospace industry, the delivery, timely delivery, the services provided has to come from the private sector. That is why most of us in the Pakistan Aerospace Council are volunteers. We in fact pay money to become, board members. So it's giving our time and energy to push aerospace industry from the clutches of the public sector into the dynamic, out-of-box private sector growth.
So we will be definitely in the next round, and we'll be discussing more about the role of the associations we should have and they should play. Coming to Imran Saab, we have not been talking about the aerospace industries, the transport wing, the commercial airliners, the role which they have, and they contribute, their contribution in this industry. So, do you see any significant changes in commercial airline business or the charter business coming? And do you see any opportunities in this market, you know? Because it's been, if I just to build up your answer, you see, it's been nations would take aerospace industry as their pride, you know, and they heavily invest into it. We have recently seen China has been making a lot of headways, breaking into the main commercial airline business, and the market they foresee in Asia Pacific region and their own requirements. So they think it's time to come up with their own brand of commercial airlines. So how do you see commercial airlines and the business around them? Do we have any opportunities in this sector?
Sir, taking the cue from the last discussion, as sir said, the defense business or defense industry is opportunity based, and opportunity towards the negative sense, that means conflicts. Because if there are conflicts, there is business. If there are conflicts, there are innovation solutions to the situations. But if you see the commercial aviation, it's a progressive growth. Of course, it does have an impact like COVID. It gets affected by fuel prices. But the need of humans to travel around the globe for pleasure or for business would never end. It would upscale, and in the last, let's say about 10-15 years, the emergence of the concept of private jets. So that has, I would say, the market has increased manifold. I had the opportunity of evaluating or doing a feasibility for a maintenance repair overall station at Islamabad airport. So once I went through the figures, the numbers, as Tawseef said, the numbers are beyond our imagination in trillions, and traveling or growing at a pace which we can't think of. Like the part of the world in which we are, our imagination or our count for revenues is pretty, I would say, very, very small as compared to the West. But the business around the commercial aviation, the travel part is what we see. But refurbishment of just the cabins, within that there are tens or multiple lines of business, from infotainment, from cockpit, from navigation, from lights, you name. So it is such an industry that will always continue to grow, that the investment somebody does in that particular domain is likely to give its dividends. Like if we go back, sir, 20 years, 30 years, we just had one airline, local. Now we can at least count 8 to 10. We never had a concept of business jets in Pakistan. Now we see the public sector as well as the private sector, the politicians, the real estate developers, everybody owns a private jet. So it's no more a novelty. It is a reality which will continue to grow. Now, refurbishment, repair overall is one line of business. Maintenance is another line of business. Spare support is another line of business. So the line of business around the aviation sector for the commercial aviation is, of course, never stopping. But as I said in the last discussion, that we don't, once we talk about startups, we talk about small businesses, they don't have the spine to make an entry into this right away. So they have to align or connect themselves to a business owner who owns that line of business and become a part, maybe tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, no problem. The objective is to do something, earn money, earn revenues, grow. And today you are in tier 4, tomorrow you will be in tier 3, because the tier 1 was not born tier 1. it took its path to get to tier 1 or tier 2. So that's what we need to understand, that, and never focus or never identify just one game plan or one path. Look for 2, 3, 4 options around a bigger industry. Explore feasibility, do your financial, do your maths, club in investors, club in partners, think big, and there's a lot to do.
Thank you, Mansu. Further, I would, if you talk about our national aerospace landscape, I've got just some figures with me. So we have exactly 5 local airlines operating in Pakistan right now, and the combined fleet of these 5 airline operators is actually 61 aircrafts. And if you talk about the other segment, that is the defense segment, defense force and the PF is roughly operating around 800 aircrafts at this moment. This is the inventory. So 800 plus 61 is the total flying objects in Pakistan. So looking at this number, 61 commercial airlines, 61 commercial aircrafts, few cargo and private jets. So naturally, for any organization who wants to bring into this business and comes into the business, the largest chunk is actually Pakistan Air Force. That is the bigger market if we talk about currently. So Pakistan Air Force holds the largest aircraft fleet as compared to the commercial, and commercial naturally they have their own OEM and their own supply chain behind them. So how do you see, is the local landscape is the only landscape we should be looking at, the market, or we have to look beyond our boundaries and look at the global market opportunities?
Very pertinent question. I think as far as the entrepreneurs in the audience are concerned, you need to measure the opportunity, the total addressable market. And if you're viewing the defense 800 aircraft as your market, I think that's the wrong way to look at it. You really have to look at the global landscape. And we have to take heed from success stories, recent success stories. Indonesia, they had no aerospace industry, and within a span of few years, they had a thriving aerospace industry. You take heed from Mexico, they had no aerospace industry, and now they are one of the dominant players. And each one of them had certain factors working for them. They were at some geographic, some economic, some natural potentials. They sat down and figured out where to harness. The idea is how the entrepreneurs make money, what is the path to it, what are the barriers to entry to market. So the aerospace industry, as far as the platforms are concerned, it's heavily regimented by certifications, by regimes which prevent entry into it. So very upfront targeting, for instance, making a next platform that takes it. For that, it actually the air mobility utilization in a country represents the progress, progress it has attained economically. So if you look at China, they were importing aircraft, but now since they are the top of the food chain, so they are now building their own aerospace platforms. They've started building it. Very soon you will see they will have orders from across the world. So for Pakistan, the situation is right at a very grassroots level. So we have to look where to build. While for the 𝒂𝒏𝒂𝒄𝒄, we have targeted, we are going to Mars. So we want our fresh generation to dream about Mars. But keep your feet on the ground. And there are ample opportunities with associations, with NASTAP, initiatives like that. We can make it easier. We can reduce the risk. We can use exposure and partner with allies. For instance, Turkey, as just pointed out, that without any framework utilization, they were able to ramp up their business from few millions to hundreds of millions. So these things would require teamwork and look at those barriers to entry in the aerospace industry. We need the aerospace industry critically because over the years there's been a degradation in our depth of engineering in Pakistan in the private sector. We are mostly service oriented. So the biggest success story that has come up is the IT. So IT is making billions of rupees, so the government is focusing. So we can look at IT, how IT maps into the aerospace industry. They're big plays. Infosys, Wipro, companies just next doors, they were not aerospace companies to start with. They looked into the IT opportunity in the aerospace sector, and look where what they've attained in the last few years. So we have to play with our strengths and have strategies to overcome barriers to entry. Exposure to markets, as Sir is saying, we are facilitating B2B interactions. We have joint working groups where we are now going to recruit people from the aerospace industry, take them to these industries who are ready to talk business with us. We had limitations of certification, so now we have certificate agency in Pakistan, which is building cross-recognition relationships with other industries who are allied with us. But it's a cutthroat competition. But you have to, I'm sure it is preaching to the choir, because the entrepreneurs there, they understand that having technology is one part of the thing, but landing a business deal is altogether a different strategy. So we need to come together, our business strategists. So we did an attempt to conduct an economic study to measure what truly is the opportunity and how do we land it. To our surprise, we found out that our economists, our experts in business, even they do not have the right tools and mindsets to actually craft a business strategy for this. So what is Saudi Arabia doing? What is the Middle East doing? They have money, so they hire the best and the greatest brains in the world, and they bring them, okay, do this, solve this for us. We unfortunately don't have the economic capacity, so we have to figure it out right now on our own.
I think one of the reasons might be the private sector or the private individuals who were actually the management students or like come from a business management background, they never had the actually access to this market. They were never actually involved into the functioning of this industry. It might be the reason, you know. Reading from a book is something different, and having experienced something is something else, you know.
I'll just quickly add to this before you move on to the next, that the phenomena worldwide is transition from public to private. Whenever technology, whether it's nuclear or whatever, there's a huge risk in going into new areas. So governments pitch in. If you look at the Fraunhofer model in Germany, they took a huge time to figure out how to take this public sector potential and give it to the private sector. Because we are lowering risk. The public sector lowers the risk. And even if looking at, you mentioned the 800 aircraft, that can serve as a very good catalyst. Our 800 aircraft are civilian. You would be surprised that in training services, in refurbishment of aircraft, in MRO, we're losing millions of dollars. We are dependent on foreign OEMs. Even for washers, we have to go abroad. A washer which we can produce locally in less than $1, we buy for hundreds and thousands of dollars from overseas. So there are huge opportunities that can catalyze this move also. But
I can truly relate to this example. Being a vendor, you know. So my next question to Mr. Masood Malik would be, the aircraft actually it's constituted of different parts. You know, we have the mainframe, we have the avionics, we have the propulsion system, we have got the software side of it, we have got some weapons plan. The OEMs are actually the integrators, but actually there's a cost involved. The cost allocated to the mainframes, the cost allocated to the avionics and the subsystems. You know, so could you like explain to us like, if I'm not able to come up with a complete system, so how about going for a single subsystem or a subsystem of a subsystem? And well, I believe like the overall cost of average aircraft's mainframe is less than actually 30%. The rest of the percentage of the cost comes actually from the avionics and the propulsion system. So what we see, the thing which we see flying actually is not the costliest thing. So could you just share a general breakup of the costs involved in the subsystems of aircraft?
First of all, just the last sort of analysis of the question that you were going. My entire 1.5 year working in the Western aerospace industry, and my book, my novel covers that, OEMs were in the private sector. And they have a very, very well-defined business model. And I used to do brainstorming with them. 1/3, not more than 1/3 of their revenue would come from the government contractors. But they thought government is too slow in responding, the cash flows. You know, 2/3 of the business comes from commercial products. So for people who are sitting in the back, who are totally glued on to what my friend said, 800 aircraft, please don't look at that. Look at Singapore Aerospace. Next time you land in Changi Airport, there's a one hangar only, very few aircraft in their Air Force. They are doing more than $100 billion business every year because they've captured all the aircraft moving in Southeast Asia from east to west, north to south, and it's all parked up for MROs and whatever. So the market research. Now coming back to your question, my friend did mention, but I want to elaborate that. You know, we were the Thanedars, you know, for me, 40 years, you know, I was CEO, AWC, PEC, Suparco, so we thought we are OEMs. But fortunately, we built up the private sector. So most of our vendors who are doing business with us, they are now our members of Pakistan Aerospace Council. So we've pushed them into partial OEMs. To answer your question, you know, you go to NATO, website, 5,000 plus daily basis tender floated in there, right from washers to rubber to parts to subsystems to what my friend talked about, tier 5, tier 4, tier 3. You pick up anything, and you can, once you become a supplier of that, you know, we've taken our members to CERN, you know, the highest engineering feat in the world, you know. And we've opened up our vendors to what we have, CERN, you know, right, Geneva underground, you know, and there are a lot of inquiries to our vendors, and they're going to meet some of the inquiries. One of the large, you know, mechanical device is being produced in Lahore. So the question is exposure, capability, and then vying for what you can deliver, product development. At the end of the day, it's product development. I've been harping as DG NUST for 8 years. I've been harping in every HSCA board meeting. Please, for God's sake, tell students how to develop the products. The product development, they are hooked up to basic research, paper pushing, you know, instead of product development. New product development should come from universities, from R&D organizations. I gave you the example of Israeli aerospace industry. Look at that. One wing commander, you know, a colonel sitting in the defense ministry, got an apple on his head. He started looking for HR. He looked at all the Russian aeronautical engineers working on the doors of the hotels. He collected them and put them in one of the universities. And within 3 years, you know, we did all the analysis when I was part of the Defense Export Organization. Within 3 years, you see this aerospace exports going up vertically because of the HR. The Russian aeronautical engineers who came to, emigrated to Israel. So we have the HR, we have vendors developed over the last 30, 40 years, some of us who were on the other side of the fence, now we're on this side. So yes, we need to sit with the private sector, build up, you know, that's what the BPO is all about, Pakistan Aerospace Council. We look at the capacity of the people, little bit exposure, give them an, you know, international, you know, sort of experience, and let them vertically grow. Let me also give you an input today for NICAD. I've been the regional director of IEEE Aerospace and Electronic Systems Society. We did 5 workshops in Turkey and Pakistan, and that's we pushed the aerospace industry. So maybe you have one kind of a branch, Islamabad, here in NICAD. That will bring you the Boeing's CEOs, the executives coming to you, you know, and exchanging notes. So once you have an IEEE Aerospace Electronic Systems Society, you know, a professional body within NICAD, you have access to all the Northern American aerospace industry experts because all of them participate in these functions. That's what we did in Turkey. That's what we did when I was DG NUST in 2 or 3 international conferences. That's what you can do.
So we've got a long list of requests and questions specifically for PAC contact, you know, and I've got already something lined up for you, and we'll be inshallah discussing that later on. Imran Saab, UAVs is actually this is a new emerging sector, a segment, And we see things, UAVs are not just for the defense purpose, and immediately I think it's one of the low-hanging fruits which we can, utilize, and it has got endless possibilities when we talk about the UAVs and drones, utilities and market opportunities. We have a lot of opportunities within the agriculture sector. We have got a lot of opportunities in deliverance, observations, civil surveys, so many things. So can you just elaborate, like, it's UAVs as in emerging opportunities we have, and probably the low-hanging fruits we can have within this sector?
Thank you, sir. Yes. For the house, or for the startups, or for, I would say, even middle-tier companies, probably UAVs, innovation if we talk about, other than the line of business we earlier discussed, that taking or targeting any prong of the MRO. But if somebody, like I would say most of us, are obsessed with the product and having a tag on the product, or having a sense of achievement that this is a product which came out of my team or my company or myself. So probably even UAVs, I would say, a little, not upscale, but a notch up. The best thing for the startups or the middle tier companies would be multi-rotors. It's not an expensive business to start with, and it has so many diverse applications, as sir said, that you talk about surveillance, you talk about deliveries, you talk about agriculture, you talk about military, you talk about defense. I would say that the surveillance probably is every town or every sector has its application. You utilize it for anything. So for the multi-rotors and the UAVs, the fixed wings, small scale, small platforms, which we say don't get into the prohibitive domain of the defense, or you don't bump into civil aviation for their flying or because of their altitude. So that is the best recipe or the best target which somebody can think of. And like, I'll give you an example. I'm working with a collaborator from Turkey. We are working on a joint production kind of an agreement. The company was founded in mid-80s, and they were established to make the mechanical parts of the automobiles, the flywheel of tractors and things like that. They transited another 10-15 years to build up their manufacturing capability, and went into UAV business not 4 or 5 years, in early 2000. And today they are marketed as probably one of the biggest UAV manufacturers, private sector in the world. So opportunities, as sir said, would come out of conflicts. But if you are not on that path, you may not end up there, or you may not be able to catch that opportunity. So within the UAVs or within the quad rotors, you can work on flight controllers, you can work on optical trackers, you can work on navigation, you can work on these brushless motors, you can work on composite structures, and you don't need public sector kind of facilities to work on them. Small little machines in your backyard, in your hangars, in your garages, you can start and reach a considerable level. Prior to that you need a factory on rent, or you want to establish a factory. So these domains, and these domains in this realm, which is the multi-rotors and the mini UAVs, it's all scalable. If you work on flight controller, quad rotor, multi-rotor, you can transit to fixed wing. From fixed wing, you are working on a platform which is piston engine driven or a propeller engine driven, you can transit to a jet engine. Jet engine, again, there are different classes. You change the class, your flight controller and your allied avionics, as I said, navigation, optical trackers. And the best thing is, today, the hardware or the firmware is such that they are all backed up by, or they are all dependent on software solutions, codes. So the cycle or the development cycle or the product cycle of IT is very less. That is why it is the favorite of everybody, because it gives you quick results overnight and it gives you quick revenues. So bottom line is, think objective, make a game plan and keep it scalable, keep it in phases. If you want to take a single jump and achieve glory, you have to be extremely lucky. Otherwise, there is no recipe to get to that.
That's a wise step. As I said, let's climb more upwards. If you look at the economic progress of last 100 years, every nation took foresee some, they were able to capitalize on some major technological shift and be part of that shift. If it was the software development, India took the opportunity and they became part of this industry. We have seen what South Koreans have achieved from smartphone manufacturing. So there's another shift coming up, and we see communications changing because of the landscape at the above atmospheric level, and we see thousands of space launches for satellites. I think you could be 100% certain we won't be seeing those local boosters from telecom sectors here and there in the next 5 to 10 years. This landscape will completely change, and the connectivity will be actually satellite based. So space also provides an opportunity for communication sectors. Do you see any opportunities for us, entering into that sector and become some sort of a part of it?
So again, आपके सारे questions very pertinent है. I think staying hooked on to the economic benefits of doing aerospace. There are two fundamental things. One is cutthroat competition between OEMs, so they're always trying to lower costs. So emerging economies or like really developing countries like Pakistan, where the cost of living is very low, so their natural point where the cost of production is also low. So we are not, you hardly see any Mercedes parked outside the National Aerospace Science Center. Maybe there are one or two. But if you go to a park in Turkey, you would see lots of Mercedes and BMW. So the economy changes actually the landscape. So this provides a natural entry point for countries like ours. So cost is one thing. The second is disruptive trends. So disruptive avenues like the UAVs, this actually opens up. So anybody who's flying something in the air is aerospace. And all the technologies that go into a drone, they're as good as basically the F-35. So they have an autopilot, they have flight controls, they have a ground control, communication systems, now radars, very advanced sensors, complex image processing behind it. So tons of opportunity in the whole ecosystem of this UAVs. On that note, I'd like to just share that I'm coincidentally also the project director for a national project called Green AI. So we are, and that's focused on drones and aerospace technologies, ICT technologies for applications in agriculture. So I think some of our startups here have participated in developing drones for us. There are software projects that we are, the focus is not to actually build a product platform for the Air Force or for Nesta, but to enable upcoming entrepreneurs to make an entry. And for instance, you can't legally fly a drone in Pakistan. So we have components which take care of that so that you can legally operate drones for commercial applications. So, but coming back to the question pertaining to space applications. So I think this answer would be incomplete without looking at the Elon Musk phenomenon, where NASA was sending rockets and now a private company is now a contractor for NASA, and they're sending these small satellites, the pervasiveness of these small low Earth orbit satellites for communication. There are tons and tons of opportunities.
So just to complement your explanation, the cost of launching to LOE has actually drastically reduced from $65,000 a kg to $1,500 a kg.
So if anybody is interested, there is a group right now in NASDAQ working on a microsatellite, and we're partnering with an international, and they're planning to send it. So there might be a lot of opportunities in software, control systems, where our upcoming startups can actually. So the idea is to have this play. We're trying to make this, so space is part of the roadmap that we are doing, and low cost, practical, where Pakistan has a play.
Yep.
And there are tons of opportunities.
It's a valuable opportunity which should not be missed actually, and I'm sure we should also make some more propagation on this specific topic, like this is an upcoming opportunity. So I've got a back-to-back question on you. Sir just mentioned regarding the product development, it's so much important, this is, I think, one of the major constraints which we are facing, not at the startup level, but from my personal experience working with the large government organization, it's actually a difficult problem from them as well. There are no product developers. We think we have product development and good brains over there, but I know for sure there's something which is seriously missing, is the concept of product lifecycle management. Very few people we know who has the right concept of product lifecycle management, and to begin with the product development process actually. Can you just tell us like how important it is to understand the product development process from the product lifecycle management concept, and without having a right platform, you're actually bound to fail even you have all the best intentions and the skill set, you will bump into something, and that would be the end of the story. Just to further add, and for the understanding of, actually every product has got certain, the window of opportunity is very, very important. You have to launch your product at the right time. If you do not have the product at the right time and you miss the train, somebody else would be actually taking that opportunity. So coming up with a product at the right time is very important, and without having the lifecycle management concept and the right platforms and the tools, you have some difficulty. Could you just add your experience into it?
Sir, to start with, I think आपने 𝒂𝒏𝒆𝒍. I think Sir Mansoor and Sir Imran have already hinted towards the importance of it. But for NASDAQ, this is really the pain point. The issue is first two dynamics. One, Pakistan has at present, we are dominantly, our private sector essentially is services oriented. So while the 21st century way of services is you view the services also as a product. So, but our services is actually not tech intensive, so our private sector has not been oriented toward product development. Whereas on the other end, the 21st century, if you are following a development roadmap which doesn't have PLM, project lifecycle management, as the fundamental core concept, you're not competitive. So you might develop a functional prototype, it might have some traction locally around you, but you can't sustain it as a business. So once you say product, it's a very loaded word. It is not just technology. The product encapsulates a market, encapsulates a support system, encapsulates a system of upgrades. It encapsulates a system of continuous development, collaboration. For instance, in 21st century, if you are going to reinvent everything and you're not collaborating with others and lowering your cost by partnering, you're not going to be competitive. So all of this basically from ideation to the retirement phase has to be a pre-thought, not an afterthought. Unfortunately, as in Pakistan, we actually work the other way around. We hit and trial, because that used to be our strength. In the early 40s, 50s, our jugaad mindset actually was our biggest strength. We were the jugaadis of the world. But today the paradigm has shifted where you preempt it. You have the software tools to predict, test, and meticulously refine your plans. So system engineering, we're in the current 5th generation of product lifecycle management worldwide, whereas in Pakistan at very early stage. So I think this message through this question to our audience is very important, that the mindset has to be product oriented. For that matter, to just get sharpen our tools, even if you are in the service industry, view our services as products. And I think that will help a lot specifically if we are targeting for an industry which is very quality sensitive, very, very safety sensitive, heavily regulated as the aerospace industry. So there's no way around it. If you're talking aerospace, there's totally no way around it. And we're at the very beginning. But the good news is for Pakistan, we have factors. Now we are a software aware country. One of the disruptive trends is everything is moved to software defined. So whether you're talking about a radar on a fighter aircraft or basically a design level problem or an airport management system, everything is software these days. So our community is the IT is a strength right now. So we might actually find a lot of opportunities when we marry the two.
Thank you very much, sir. And my last question for today's round would be from Sir Malik, and regarding the community building actually. So could you just explain us and propose what should be the role of an association like American Association of Aircraft Manufacturing? They actually project the interest of this community for government policy building and commercial interests as well. So how can we build this community, and what would be the role of PAEC or any other association to develop a community and protect the interest of this community?
You know, one is within the country and the other is globally, because in aerospace industry you require both. Pakistan Aerospace Council primarily was created because of the problems faced by the private sector in the corridors of power. You know, so wherever we used to go, you know, even as AWC, you know, CTO, there were a lot of problems from the private sector. The bills are not being cleared and this and that and NOC and this. So the role of PAEC is because we try to cut corners to facilitate. It's a BPO organization and we don't hit the wall. If we hit the wall, we go to BOI, Board of Investment. From there, we go to the Prime Minister office, and we try to sort out. If there is a problem, BOI chairman calls the particular. He has the right to call anybody and sit and have a dialogue. Why do you require 145 NOCs for an aerospace product? Why do you require so and so NOC for exports? You know, one of our members, people who are they would know, Satuma, Dr. Salman, he had to leave the country and set up his organization in Oman because of these NOCs. So Pakistan Aerospace Council role is to open up the doors. Let not individual members run after their problems. We go as a group with 50, 60, 100 years of our, experience and working on both sides, and then we try to facilitate. So that's primarily to support the growth of private sector. When I say from $5 billion today to $50 billion, sorry, our public sector cannot meet that. It's only the private sector growth will take place. And the private sector will grow when there are hand-holding done, when their doors open, investments come in. Investments cannot come in without BOI involvement, so we are involved even for joint ventures, We want to do joint venture with Saudi's team were here, they're already here in the country. They have said no more, not a single penny to government, we do collaborations. So we are working out with them to have a joint venture through BOI. So whatever facilitation for BPO, we only believe in B2B. When the G comes in, the whole initiative is gone. So that's what.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to thank all of our panelists for giving us this opportunity, the insight. I'm sure we have added some knowledge to our audience. And before we conclude, if you have got any question from our panel, you're most welcome to ask. Before we can conclude.
Assalamualaikum, sir. My name is 𝑦𝒏𝒅𝒊𝒏𝒈. I'm an aerospace engineer like most of you. एक बात जिससे मैं slightly disagree करूँगा सर, आपने एक बात की कि services sector से हमें दूर हटना है, we have to go towards slightly bigger products. But then again आपने ये भी बात की कि washery बना लो, seals बना लो, ठीक है? एक बड़ा अच्छा नाम आपने सर mention किया Elon Musk का, who is not aerospace engineer. He is building a space shuttle that is made of steel. अगर एरोस्पेस इंजीनियर को कहा जाए ना, वी विल नेवर थिंक ऑफ इट बिकॉज ऑफ आवर इंडोक्ट्रिनेशन, राइट। दूसरा नाम है सर कैली जॉनसन, ठीक है। हमने बड़ी इस तरह मेंशन किया कि एक अपॉर्चुनिटी बेस्ड इंडस्ट्री है हमारी, लेकिन हमारी रेपुटेशन बेस्ड इंडस्ट्री भी है। अगर स्कंक वर्क्स एक बात कहती है तो एवरीबडी लिसन्स। द रीज़न इज़ दे वर एबल टू डिसरप्ट, एंड कैली जॉनसन ने जो RFQs एक्सेप्ट की थी, किसी ने एक्सेप्ट नहीं की थी, एंड ही वॉज एबल टू एक्सेप्टेड क्योंकि उसके पीछे एक पब्लिक मनी फेंकी गई थी। तो अगर प्रोजेक्ट अज़म सर हमने शायद किसी परवेज़ भाई को पकड़ा दिया होता तो आज वो भी एक कैली जॉनसन बने हुए होते, बजाय इसके कि आज हम TFX पे रिलाई कर रहे होते। कि तो मेरे ख्याल से एक थोड़ा सा हमें ये भी सोचना चाहिए कि हमें एक इंडस्ट्री को डिसरप्ट करना है, तो उसके लिए सर हमें थोड़ी सी अनकन्वेंशनल अप्रोच जो है, बजाय इसके कि हम बॉटम अप अप्रोच लें, थोड़ी सी हमें जो है सर वो इंजेक्शन लगाना पड़ेगा इस इंडस्ट्री को रिवाइव करने के लिए। सर
आई विल टेक इट, लेकिन ये जो आखिरी अज़म का रेफरेंस को अगर एक्सप्लेन कर दे तो बात आसान हो जाएगी, जवाब भी स्पेसिफिक हो जाएगा। नहीं सर, देखें, थिंकिंग बिग में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, बैठ जाए। थिंकिंग बिग हर एक का हक है, लेकिन उसको फीट ऑन ग्राउंड रियलिटी से मैरी करना, अपनी स्पाइन देखना, अपनी कैपेबिलिटी और कैपेसिटी, एक्चुअली मार कैपेबिलिटी पे कम पड़ती है, कैपेसिटी पे ज़्यादा पड़ती है। और जिस रीजन में हम हैं, जैसी हमारी इकॉनमी है, और गॉन आर द डेज कि जब आप लोग कहते थे कि सर पैसा तो फौज के पास है या सरकार के पास है, वो भी दिन ख़त्म हो गए, ठीक है सर। तो अब उस के अंदर यस, मैंने ही पहली सवाल के जवाब में डिज़ाइन की बात की थी, लेकिन डिज़ाइन से लेके प्रोडक्ट तक का सफ़र, आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट नाइकेट कि एक टॉक इस पे रख लें, सिर्फ इस पे रख लें तो वो काफ़ी हो। तो डिज़ाइन से प्रोडक्ट तक का सफ़र हमें डिस्कस करने के लिए शायद 1 या 2 घंटे काफ़ी नहीं। जी सर, मैं अगर सर पिन कर दूं, पिन कर दूं कि अज़म या TFX, वो कंप्यूटर पे या सिमुलेशन पे जहाज डिज़ाइन करना तो शायद हमारे बहुत लोग कर लेंगे, उसको ट्रांसलेट करना इनटू अ प्रोडक्ट विच इज़ फ्लाइंग क्वालिफाइड, हमारी नेशन उसको शायद अगले 20 साल भी अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकती, उसके लिए जो वेयर विदॉल चाहिए। तो हमने बेचा या सौदा किसी के साथ नहीं किया, वो इन दी फर्स्ट प्लेस हमारी कैपेसिटी से बात है, और जिनकी कैपेसिटी में है वो कर रहे हैं, और हमारी दुआ है कि वो करें और हम उनके साथ एज अ पार्टनर हैं।
Actually, I would look at it differently. Disruptive is always disruptive. मैं जब पहली दफ़ा अमेरिकन एरोस्पेस इंडस्ट्री में गया तो मुझे फोर्ड एरोस्पेस वाले, they took me to YF-16. YF-16 was being developed in 1975-76 by only 3 engineers working in GD. The GD wanted to fire them, but they said, fire them? Kyun fire kar rahe ho? They said, okay, you can use our spare parts, but the time that you give to GD, you will do that, because the whole aerospace industry was working on large platforms, high speed, phantoms, F-111s, blah, blah, blah. And they were going for light aircraft, single-seater, multi-purpose. They designed F-16, 3 aerospace engineers in the spare time, the spares used by GD, and they designed that aircraft. It is a bestseller. Compare that with the goddamn F-35. It has taken, what, 18, 19 years to co-develop. So what I'm saying is, there is no fixed rules for disruptive technologies. And these are 2 examples which will always haunt people who say they follow a straight path. No. No, I gave you an example of AWC. We broke ground in 1990, and in 93, we were in IDEX exhibition selling our products. 2.5, 3 years.
Just to correct the narrative, आपने जो narrative किया है उसको correct करना है. There is no abandonment of anything. So we are talking about going to Mars. So आप उसकी बात कर रहे हैं. The only thing is कि learning from business community कि आपको चीज़ें parallel में चलानी है और उसको business play देखना है. If you don't have a business plan, if you don't have the whole things figured out, तो आप उसको plan को adjust करते हैं. So Azam is still there. we have readjusted the plan and it's executing at a much bigger scale. So collaborating with others, partnering with others, it is a part of that whole plan, but you don't get to that point in one go, one jump. That's a very ambitious thing. Generally, our egos और पाकिस्तान में जो हम फाइनल ओवर में छक्का मार के मियादाद बनना चाहते हैं, that is actually what we need to control. There are roadmaps which nations and countries have followed consistently. In the face of adversities, challenges, crashes, human life loss, वो लगे रहे हैं उसके अंदर. आप अपना न्यूक्लियर प्रोग्राम देख लें, ठीक है ना? सो आपको कंसिस्टेंटली अप्रोच करनी पड़ती है, और अगर कहीं पे आपको रियलाइज हो जाए कि आई कैन इम्प्रूव द प्लान, तो यू इम्प्रूव इट. डू नॉट फॉल ईगो कि जी हमने कर दिया है तो अब हमने करना ही है, पूरी नेशन को डबो देंगे. सो द इशू इज़ वी आर ऑन द सेम पैथ, इट्स नॉट चेंज. So the narrative that you've given up and doing something else and now taking, it's not that. So yeah, just I wanted to make that point.
I would conclude is कि as sir said कि build up the innings, boom boom के बजाय इफ्तिखार चाचू वाली टुक टुक करके चलते रहना चाहिए. I think build up the innings, you know. End of the day, what matters is you win the match.
थैंक यू आपकी, और बड़ी खुशी हुई मुझे इसको अटेंड करके. मैंने करनी थी हाँ जी. और ये है कि मेरा जो ताल्लुक था ना KRL से, पता है आपको, बताया उन्होंने. अच्छा, वहाँ जो बाकी टास्क थे ना, उनमें एक टास्क ये भी था कि उसके इंजन को हमने, बोरिंग वाइल के इंजन को हमने वेल्ड करना अकॉर्डिंग टू जो उनका क्वालिटी क्राइटेरिया था सारा. उसके पार्ट्स, हर पार्ट का हम चेक करते थे, फिर उसको वेल्ड करते थे. अच्छा, उसकी जो वेल्डिंग थी ना, वो थी वैक्यूम में, और वो वैक्यूम का जो कि पार्ट था मेरे पास, तो सारी मेरे पास ही वेल्डिंग थी उसकी. और जो सारा आपको इंजन था, ये लिक्विड बेस्ड था. आपको पता है बोरिंग वाइल लिक्विड बेस्ड, तो फ्यूल जो है आपका लिक्विड है, वो इंजन है. हमारे पास एक 𝑦𝒏𝒅𝒊𝒏𝒈 साहब आए, उनको खान साहब दिखा रहे थे कि ये देखें जी हमने बनाया था. 𝑦𝒏𝒅𝒊𝒏𝒈 का ये हम जो इंजन है हमारे जहाज वाले हैं, जो कमर्शियल जहाज है, इनमें इसको सकते हैं. अगर आप इंजन जाहिर में लगा सकते हैं, वो इंजन है जो लिक्विड बेस्ड. अगर इधर लग जाए तो ये तो भाई हमें सहूलत हो जाएगी. हमने कहा कि अगर यह इंजन आप इंजन उसमें लगाएंगे ना कमर्शियल लेकर, आप 2-3 मिनट में कराची पहुँच जाएंगे. लेकिन ये कहा उस टाइम कि अगर हम गवर्नमेंट ये टास्क दे कि कमर्शियल इंजन बनाना शुरू करें, तो हम ये बना सकते हैं. 2 साल में हम चाहिए इंजन ले लें. तो उस टाइम लेकिन गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत नहीं सुनी. अच्छा, एक तो ये था क्वेश्चन. दूसरा ये था, मैं बाहर जाता रहा, मोस्टली कंट्रीज में गया हूँ, मोस्टली डिफेंस रिलेटेड थी. अच्छा, डिफेंस रिलेटेड जितनी कंपनी थी, उनके पीछे सारा जो थी वो फंडिंग वो डिफेंस से आ रही. लेकिन आगे वो आउटलेट उनकी एक दो तो उनकी जो कमर्शियल वो थी, बाकी सारी में कमर्शियल चीज़ें बना रही थी. ठीक है, अब ये क्या मुल्क में क्यों नहीं हो सकता है कि जो इस तरह की इम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ें हैं, प्राइवेट इंडस्ट्री है, उसको डिफेंस से थोड़ा सा पैसा दें, क्योंकि हमारे लिए ये चीज़ें बनाएं. ठीक है, वो बनाएंगे और कमर्शियल भी करेंगे, उससे जो इनकम होगी वो डिफेंस को भी वापस मिलेगी. तो यहाँ क्यों नहीं हो सकता है?
सर, इफ़ यू लॉस में सर, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो आई वांट टू recognize your contribution in very critical national projects जो आपने mention किए. The whole nation is proud of your achievements. दूसरी 2 questions आपके हैं सर. एक तो गवर्नमेंट का रोल, और सेकंड आपका है कि ये स्पिन ऑफ फंक्शन जो है. तो दोनों पे गुड न्यूज़ ये है सर कि पाकिस्तान एक जर्नी पे, एंड द सेटअप दैट यू सीइंग हियर, दिस इज़ नॉट वन पर्टिकुलर, दिस इज़ ट्रूली एन एसोसिएशन जहाँ पे प्राइवेट सेक्टर, ये पूरा आपके इर्द गिर्द कंपनीज से हमने भरा हुआ है. देयर कंपनीज कोलैबोरेटिंग फ्रॉम वेरी ग्रास रूट लेवल, और वी हैव द एयर फोर्स विद ऑल इट्स डिमांड फॉर हाई टेक सिचुएटेड वेरी क्लोज बाय. सेकेंडली गवर्नमेंट्स जो हैं, अभी 7 to 8 मिनिस्ट्रीज जो हैं, देर एक्टिवली वर्किंग विद अस इन डिफरेंट जर्नी है. स्टार्ट हमने डाल दी है, और गवर्नमेंट बिकॉज जो ये जो फ्रेमवर्क्स हैं कि गवर्नमेंट जब एक प्राइम मिनिस्टर एक ऑर्डर भी दे देता है ना, अगर आपको दे भी देता, उसको फॉलो थ्रू करने के लिए पीछे लोग चाहिए होते हैं कि कौन फंडिंग ला के देगा, कौन फिजिबिलिटी करेगा, कौन ओनरशिप लेगा. सो वो सारी चीज़ें जो हैं पाकिस्तान में ट्रांजिशंस, वी आर ऑन अ जर्नी, देयर आर गैप्स. लेकिन जब आपकी तरफ से डिमांड आएगी, आपकी तरफ विल आएगी, तो ये चीज़ें डिफाइन होना शुरू हो जाएंगी. बिगेस्ट इसमें गुड न्यूज़ है द सेटलमेंट ऑफ द स्पेशल टेक्नोलॉजी जोन्स. ये लेजिस्लेशन पास हो गई है. This park, I'm happy to report that very soon it will be an STZ. The thing is, we actually wanted to create the STZ before getting the status. Otherwise, वो opposite होता है. लोग status ले लेते हैं, STZ बनता नहीं है. So we have a thriving STZ, जहाँ government, academia, industry, collaboration and facilitation through some of the measures that the Pakistan Aerospace Association is talking. इसको हमने underway कर दिया. So the lining on the sky is good. दूसरी चीज़ है आपकी सर spin-offs. और ये जो ग्रीन आई मैं आपको बता रहा था प्रोजेक्ट जो है, इट्स बेसिकली स्पिन ऑफ ऑफ एरोस्पेस एआई जो डिफेंस के लिए हैं. बिकॉज मेरे पास जो स्मार्टेस्ट इंजीनियर्स हैं जो हु आर वर्किंग इन माय R&D सेंटर्स, उनको हम टेक्नोलॉजी डिविजन्स में हम यहाँ पे वी हैव पॉपुलेटेड देम एंड नाउ दे आर वर्किंग. सेम गाय हु इज वर्किंग ऑन अ ground penetrating radar for agriculture application, the same he is working on a ground penetrating radar for mine detection. So ये perfect play जो है, this is the only way forward. Without this, the numbers जिस तरह साथ साहब ने mention किया था कि 800 जहाज़ हैं, आप 800 जहाज़ से क्या वो तेल निकाल लेंगे. So the issue is कि the numbers come from commercial spin-offs. इसलिए ये phenomena well understood है worldwide. चाहे आप जर्मनी ले लें, US ले लें, चाइना ले लें. This is a well understood phenomena, demonstrated amply. We have to go down that path. और अपनी ग्राउंड रियलिटीज़ को आपने देखा है, कहाँ खड़े हैं, हमारे बच्चे कितने टैलेंटेड हैं, हमारी यूनिवर्सिटियाँ क्या निकाल रही हैं, हमारे पास इनकी बच्चों की खपत कहाँ पे है. मोस्टली हमारे टॉप 4 पॉइंटर्स जो हैं वो तो टेलीकॉम इंडस्ट्री में जॉब लेने चले जाते हैं. अब वेरी सून आपके जितनी HR है सर जो हम यहाँ पे अभी देख रहे हैं, दिस इज़ गोइंग टू बी अंडर हैवी अटैक फ्रॉम Saudi Arabia, Japan, because worldwide there is a shortage of human resource. जी सर. So Turkey जो है for instance हमारे साथ बड़े, they are very close to us, but उनका prime focus is to tap into this young talented lot. So अगर आप ये opportunities नहीं देंगे, इनको business orientation नहीं देंगे, मैं KPI के तौर पे जब सोचता हूँ नेक्स्ट स्टेप के लिए, तो मेरा KPI ये है कि यहाँ पे अगर बाहर Mercedes और BMWs ना खड़ी हुई तो ये बच्चे यहाँ नहीं रहेंगे. They will go to where they can drive Mercedes speed boats. Because मैं अमेरिका में I spent 6 years के I could actually buy my own speed boat. यहाँ पे मुझे बताएं कितने पाकिस्तानी जो हैं, इवन जो आपके टॉप टाइकून्स हैं उनके पास भी शायद पाकिस्तान में स्पीड बोट मुश्किल में होती है. सो द इशू इज़ कि ये आपने इसके देयर इज़ नो अदर ऑप्शन. 240-250 मिलियन की पॉपुलेशन है. इफ यू डोंट फिगर इट आउट इट्स नॉट गोइंग टू हैपन ऑन इट्स ओन.
मैंने आपको थोड़ा सा हिंट किया था, मैंने ये बुक भी की है, इट्स अबाउट एयरोस्पेस इंडस्ट्री में इंटरनेशनल एक्सपीरियंस है. 1/3 से ज़्यादा वो गवर्नमेंट का वो नहीं करते थे. 2/3 ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट्स आर प्योरली कमर्शियल. यस एंड अगर आप वो जो है अपना यूनिवर्सिटीज़ की R&D का भी जो था गवर्नमेंट फंडेड है एंड कमर्शियल. 2 सेनेटर्स थे बेदूर और उन्होंने अपना जो R&D फंडिंग थी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ को, प्रोफेसर्स को इजाज़त दे दी थी कि आप कमर्शलाइज करें. दैट्स हाउ द अमेरिकन यूनिवर्सिटी किक्ड ऑफ द कमर्शियल साइड. तो कमर्शियल के बगैर तो यू नो रिसर्चर्स जो है जब तक रिजल्ट ना आएगा वो नहीं होगा.
My name is Air Commodore retired Asim Adnan. You all know me for the audience. I want to make few comments. I have about 40 years of experience as an aeronautical engineer in public sector. Years in air weapon complex, and now about more than 6 years in a private R&D company. I'm still working, alhamdulillah, third inning. There have been very interesting points which came under discussion. One is the scope of commercial products. There is a paradigm shift. Earlier, defense technology used to be the catalyst for commercial innovation, commercial industry. But now the reverse is. GPU, Dr. 𝒂𝒏𝒆𝒍's favorite subject, were developed for computer games. and now they are being used in the fighter aircraft for our glass cockpits. And I'm pleased to share with you that the R&D group I am working with presently, we are making. So there are ample opportunities for the skill set we have in our youngsters. The problem is that why aerospace industry has not been able to flourish in our country, because everything is in the public sector, amply talked here. And my now experience of both sides, by the way, this 40 years also include 2.5 years on a commercial aircraft, Boeing 737. I have a AME license also. And 3 years diplomatic posting in a European country also. Because we don't have enabling environment, otherwise our people can do wonders. I am working in a setup where we have developed our own single board computers which are working. Would you like to name your 𝒆𝒊𝒏𝒈 Private Limited. 𝒆𝒊𝒏𝒈 Private Limited. And some of the Turkish friends, when they came and they saw and they appreciated our stuff, but I'm sorry to say, I don't disagree with everything. Turkey will never come and solve our problems. I have been associated with Pak-Turkish interactions because they are very clear. We had about 10, 12 interactions, and one of the guys had the guts to say that we have direction that anything which can be made in Turkey, why should we buy it from other countries? Our problem will not be solved by Saudi Arabia. Our problem will not be solved by China. Our problem has to be solved by Pakistanis. We have to give them enabling environment, which is unfortunately not available. Why every R&D product development should be done by public sector? My answer is, it's a good thing to have a joint collaboration, provided we have that culture. I'm sorry we don't have the culture because I have seen both sides. Number two, we can have a debate on this, that what is missing. We need to do the gap analysis. The public sector, you cannot have longevity of the HR. Now, all the aerospace, very high tech, but they don't have longevity. They should do system engineering. The design element which Imran Sahib has mentioned, I agree with him. Design can be done better. They are the end user. They want to do everything. And let me tell you, as a private sector, we feel NASTAP is their competitor. I don't want to get into a debate here. I can have a separate discussion with specifics. There's a lot which can be done provided we give enabling environment as a policy directive. I attended one seminar in next door about a month back, and I pointed out this thing also. Because if you import a whole product, the duties are more. If you import piece parts, the duties are duties are more, and if you import a complete system, CKD में उसमें आपके एक तो ये enabling environment, दूसरी हमारी जो है ना कि हर चीज़ हम खुद कर लें. Boeing and Airbus, they are competitors. I was in Germany. Airbus was rolling out a new aircraft. I had an American defense air attaché sitting next door. I said, because of that scandal between USAF and Boeing, you missed the opportunity. You know what did he say? He said, we are not bothered. This Airbus which is standing in front, it was a hospital Airbus. He said 65% of it is American. Because there are aisles of excellence. MPDR PF imported from Germany. We are doing overhauling in Canberra. We were getting everything from Germany. I found I'm talking of 2002, a 40, 50 years old company which was only making rotary joints and RF feeds. I connected and I found that the rates which we were getting from Siemens, they were 30% less. And now camera gets parts from that spinner. There are, excellence, there are island of excellence. You cannot do everything. We must learn from the best practices. Look at the vendor development of Boeing, Airbus. Sir, आपने बात की उसकी CERN की. I have been in communication with वो डॉक्टर साहब जो ये National Center of Physics से गए हैं. See their database, the kind of vendors they have developed. हमारे यहाँ वो culture ही नहीं है. We do not, we have, as a country, and I blame public sector, that we have not provided enabling environment to the private entrepreneurs. They can do wonders. Unfortunately, we have to bring a paradigm shift in our approach. And we should have, the public sector should have a bigger heart. Here, private sector, I'm telling you this, I've told to many people, private sector feels, some people may disagree with me, that 𝒆𝒓 is their competitor. We need to look at the reasons for this. I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
सर इसको मैं एग्जैक्ट थोड़ा सा एक तो ये सर थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर योर फ्रॉम द हार्ट फेल्ट जो आपकी फीलिंग है एंड द पॉइंट इज़ वेल टेकन. थोड़ा सा मैं जो आपको ओरिएंटेट करूँगा कि एवरी इनिशिएटिव टेक सम टाइम. ठीक है ना सर. तो हमारी जो पेशेंस है इट विल बी टेस्टेड टू इट्स मार्क. बट I think you need to, without your immediate experience, sir, take a absorb what has already transpired here. जो यहाँ पे companies बैठी हुई हैं, some of the companies that we might not have had that breakthrough with Terrasol in particular, but there are tons and tons and tons of success stories which would be other way around as well. So हम उसको total picture को देखें तो I think it will be not that gloomy. And in any case हम 𝒆𝒓 में थोड़ा सा we try to stay positive. बिकॉज एवरीथिंग अराउंड अगर सिर्फ फिजिबिलिटी पे चले जाएं तो हो सकता है कि मैं सुबह ऑफिस ही ना हूँ. सो थोड़ी सी पॉजिटिविटी जो है वी ट्राई टू कीप दैट एयर. द एनवायरनमेंट दैट यू सी जो लोग नीकैट में आ रहे हैं दे आर सेइंग दिस इज वर्ल्ड क्लास एनवायरनमेंट. द अदर डे वन ऑफ द व्हाटएवर आई dreamt about you have issued 35 licenses STZA and they said this is by far minimum 2 years ahead of any other initiative coming up. So मेरा एक ये होगा सर कि as a key player in the industry आप इसको participate करें. आपकी जो feedback है this is incredibly valuable for us. Whatever you have experienced, we need to adjust the strategy so that doesn't, the perception that 𝒆𝒓 is a competition to private sector, this means we are failing. Point blank, there can be no workaround. If this with anybody, so that is perception को, because हमारा day one हमारी यहाँ mantra from highest यानी कि the chief of the air staff with the 4-star, the 3-star Air Marshal Abbas Ghumman, collaboration is the mantra. If there's work happening somewhere, do not replicate it. If the private sector company doing it, don't replicate it. But some of the initiatives जो हम manage कर रहे हैं, जैसा सर बता रहे हैं कि strategy government की एक place होनी चाहिए जो जिसमें बहुत सारे गैप्स हैं. 30% इन द बेस्ट ऑफ दी सोसाइटीज़ भी 30% वो फिर भी इंडस्ट्री में पोर करते हैं. वहाँ पे बोइंग इज़ नॉट डिपेंडेंट ऑन जो है इंडस्ट्री से उनसे, बट क्योंकि उन्होंने इंसेंटिवाइज करना है, उन्होंने डायरेक्शन टेक्नोलॉजी की चेंज करनी है अकॉर्डिंग टू द प्रायोरिटीज़ दैट दे हैव. सो कुछ एक्शंस होते हैं जो गवर्नमेंट्स अपना प्ले करती हैं, इसीलिए इसको ट्रिपल हेलिक्स कहते हैं. What we need to do is settle to a point of this triple helix collaboration where everybody is happy. So it's going to take some time. So मेरी sir, with due respect, आपका experience भी मेरे से ज़्यादा है आपका, and you are really our mentors from the AWC days. I think थोड़ी सी हम we keep a positive edge here and जी.
One point for the youngsters. Are also helping defense. You all agree. There is a very, very big opportunity on which I am sure PF is also working. That is integrated modular avionics architecture. Up till now, we are working on federated architecture. Airbus A380 has this IMA architecture, And this is a concept which is already being used in commercial, because we are working for some software project for a bank also, this blade server concept. It is the same concept now putting together for next generation IMA. So those of you who are working on avionics or electronics, so don't lose hope. Inshallah, we have to work with determination, and inshallah we will stand on our feet. Please don't mind my very candid remarks. We can have a separate discussion.
Not at all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thanks for your
much.
comments. So just to conclude, I would say it was, sir, another one? Okay. हम इसमें सर बड़े साहब we will have a tea, तो उसमें कुछ इंटरेक्शन कर लीजिएगा, कुछ कमिटमेंट्स हैं.
पाइप से कितना वो प्लेट से कितना पाइप बनाते हैं, फिर उसकी कितना वेल्डिंग होती है, फिर उसका वैक्यूम में कौन से पंप चाहिए, हीलियम वाले, फलाना, सारी चीज़ें हमने गेजेस कौन सी हैं पूरे हमने उसमें गए हैं. सिर्फ एक हम गए हैं वहाँ से गुरनोबो तक, फ्रांस तक गए हैं, उधर भी एक उनके उठ है ना. तो हाँ जी, इस्लामाबाद के नीचे ना एक 3 किलोमीटर के एरिया में सर्न टाइप का एक रिएक्टर लगाना, एक्सेलेरेटर है. उसके सिलसिले में हमने कहता कम्प्लेक्स है पूरा सर्न वाला ना, 8-9 छोटे छोटे बड़े, फिर आखिर में बड़ा आता है. कम्प्लेक्स है पूरा, हमने सारा विजिट किया है. तो फिर हमने प्रपोजल बनाई, खान साहब ने प्रपोजल बनवाई थी हमसे, क्योंकि उसमें वेल्डिंग थी और ये वैक्यूम था और सारी इस किस्म की चीज़ें थी. तो जब प्रपोजल गई आगे मिनिस्ट्री में, तो उन्होंने भेज दी एटॉमिक एनर्जी कमीशन, उन्होंने इतनी मुखालफत की कि तो वो डाई डाउन ही हो गई. प्रोग्राम था हमारा कि एरिया में
Thank you very much. And Noor,
Thank you
I
so
would like
much.
to just conclude the session today.
Sarah, please come on stage for souvenir distribution. Mr. Mansoor Malik.
Thank you, Ji, for persistently asking. And in my book, it's a novel storytelling of the aerospace industries, Europe, America, how the world was learns. I have deliberately kept out 2 chapters of Pakistani experience, perhaps automatic practical.
Thank you very much. I think you keep it.
Yes, I will. I'll read it first and then I'll share it. Mr. Imran. Thank you so much.
Best out of us.
Thanks, thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. We are going to have another workshop, Design Thinking Workshop 30-60-90.
Hello everyone. There is a design thinking workshop followed right after this. I would like everyone to please take a 5-minute break and come back. All right? Thank you so much. Freshen up and we'll see you soon.